Hello, Internet! Today we are going to move on to the two middle members of the team, the two shenanigan sort of Pokemon of the team, I guess you could say. Whimsicott has always been a very shenanigan-based Pokemon, and we're going to have a look at Gengar in a little bit as well. In Gravity, though, Grass Whistle is the move that makes this Pokemon what it is. Grass Whistle has an accuracy of 91%, which is fantastic, considering that it has the prankster ability. So as long as Gravity is up, there's a 91% chance, a very good chance, that you are going to be putting something to sleep, and they are not going to move for at least that turn. So it's fantastic. It really does support the sweep. You can Swords Dance. It supports the sweep so well. The EV spread, there's not really anything imaginative going on there, is there? But it's just because I've got the Focus Sash. Focus Sash is the obvious choice for Whimsicott. I don't think there's anything else, really, that I would want on Whimsicott other than a Focus Sash. Just because Talonflame does exist. Really, lots of things exist that can one-shot Whimsicott. And keeping Whimsicott around as long as possible is very good. Whimsicott really only had to worry about being knocked out by a Mega Kangaskhan, basically. Like, a lot of the time against Big Six, if I had Gravity up, if they had like a Geomancid +2/+2/+2 Xerneas, and they had just like a Mega Kangaskhan sitting out there, I would have to Grass Whistle a Kangaskhan, because that is the only thing that can actually one-shot my Whimsicott, and keeping Whimsicott around is very, very, very important. Normally, if I was sitting in front of a Xerneas that can't one-shot Groudon, and I'd have to rely on the Kangaskhan staying asleep for that one turn to knock it out, but, against the Big Six, it often was, if they stay asleep for the one turn, then you can win the game. But, I'm sort of digressing a little bit with the whole Big Six thing there. The nature, Timid, I did consider going to Modest, because obviously it hits a lot harder. It has a much better chance to actually one-shot naive Salamence, which is a little bit of an issue for the team. Salamence in general, Mega Salamence, is an issue for this team, so being able to one-shot it would be very nice. And Modest does still outspeed Salamence before the Mega Evolution, so that was the thinking there. But Timid, I stuck with Timid basically because of Talonflame. Jolly Talonflame does exist, and okay, it can quick guard on your stuff, but if it's Jolly, it can knock you out first. If the sash is broken, it can just Brave Bird first and knock you out. So Timid, I felt, was really, really, really important to get the Adamant Talonflame. I'm pretty sure Adamant Talonflame is the most common nature for Talonflame still. So, the ability to move first, to out-priority them, to Grass Whistle them first before they can Brave Bird you, or force them to sit there quick guarding, I felt was really good. So Timid, I would never change from Timid, I'm pretty sure. Protect was actually the move I put on here last. I did have Fake Tears on this Whimsicott, because that means if you're sitting with Whimsicott and Gengar, you can actually try and sweep with Gengar as well. A -2, -2 special defense, being hit by a Sludge Bomb one-shots a lot of things, and a Hex, especially if they're asleep, one-shots a lot of things as well. But I did feel like Protect was vital on this Whimsicott, just because if they have like a Fake Out coming in later on in the game, you want to preserve your sash, you want to keep Whimsicott around as much as possible, like I've been saying, so Protect does actually help quite a lot of the time. You can do things like, if they've stayed asleep for 2 turns as well, you can Protect on their wake up and then put them to sleep again the next turn too. If Gravity's up, or even if Gravity isn't up, Grass Whistle is still 55% accurate out of Gravity. So Protect did help quite a lot. Encore, I think everyone watching this video knows that I like Encore. I think every team I've used since 2013, or every main team anyway, has had Encore on it somewhere. 13 with the Lipard, 14 with the Raichu, 15 with the Lipard, 16 with the Whimsicott. I love Encore. I still think it's a really underappreciated move. Very, very, very annoying to play against. And it just helps you control the game. If they Protect, you can Encore them into Protect again. This year we've got some new mechanics, so if it's at the late game and they've got their Kyogre and you've got your Groudon in the back, you can switch in your Groudon and Encore them into a water move, for example. There's lots of options with Encore. It's fantastic. It just locks Pokemon down. Moonblast is the last move. It was either going to be Moonblast or Grass Knot, but I did feel like Moonblast was the better option. I think the thing that tipped it over the edge was the Salamence weakness. I keep banging on about it, but I do think this team is a little bit weak to Mega Salamence, especially a late game Mega Salamence. And Whimsicott, especially because my Groudon, if you saw yesterday's video, has got Rock Tomb. I can Rock Tomb the Salamence, put it slower than Whimsicott when it's Mega Evolved, and basically just knock it out with Moonblast. Salamence, even if it isn't naive, is gonna not survive a Moonblast if it's been hit with a Rock Tomb first. So I think Moonblast was really good. It could take advantage of the Xerneas' Fairy Aura as well. So there was that going for it. You can fish for special attack drops as well. So I do like Moonblast. It's a nice move, and considering Whimsicott is just like this little frail thing with a special attack base stat of only 77, it can actually do some damage. So it has got some nice options too. I really like this Whimsicott, especially in Gravity. But a lot of the time, if you did get into the situation where you set up Gravity and you get Whimsicott and Groudon next to each other, those two could often just sweep through the rest of the team, even if both of your first two Pokemon get knocked out. Like, if you lead with Sableye and Gengar, or Sableye and Salamence or Kieran or whatever, and both of your Pokemon get knocked out, as long as you've got Gravity up, Groudon and Whimsicott can sweep through 4 Pokemon. They really can, as long as you put them to sleep, Swords Dance up, and just Precipice Play through their team. So I suppose the goal of this team is to set Gravity up and then just get Groudon and Whimsicott in safely next to each other. So that's Whimsicott. I don't think there's anything else we can say. Focus Sash, Prankster, the moves, very simple EV spread. Next, we're going to have a look at Gengar, who was the original Mega Pokemon of this team. Since the introduction of Salamence, there is 2 Mega Pokemon, but Mega Gengar, you wouldn't take Gengar and Salamence together, so there was no conflict there. Mega Gengar is very, very nice, actually. Seeing as this format is so weather-based, and dual primal teams are actually really big now, switching is very important, and you can see this has got Levitate. It's supposed to have Shadow Tag. It just says Levitate because I just sort of in the thing here just put Mega in there and did that. So it should be, obviously it should be Shadow Tag. But yeah, I do think trapping them in is a lot more useful this year. Like, it's always been useful, but it's more useful this year than it is in the past, because if you trapped a Kyogre in, you can bring Groudon in. It's such a good thing to have. I actually think Gothitelle is very underrated in this format as well. It is bulky enough to take, like an Eruption or a Water Spout if you EV it right as well. So I do think Gothitelle is quite overlooked. The moves and EV spread is, I don't know, it's quite a nice EV spread. I have seen this EV spread going around a little bit, so maybe someone has come up with it themselves as well, because basically all it does is survive an Adamant, Life Orb, Brave Bird from Talonflame, and that is really important, because you don't want your Mega Gengar just being knocked out by a Talonflame. It does mean that that does come at the cost of a decent chunk of special attack, actually, but I don't really mind that too much, because the only thing, well, I suppose there is a few things, but if you're sludge bombing a Xerneas, I would personally expect it to survive a sludge bomb. I would think people would be smart enough to EV their Xerneas to survive a Mega Gengar sludge bomb. Maybe they might not, do that. I have actually one-shot some Xerneas with this sludge bomb, even with this reduced special attack. So I suppose there is still some mods going on there. But even with this, few less special attack, if you get the poison, it doesn't really matter, because you're going to be knocking them out anyway. With the poison damage. I suppose another thing that might be the special attack might be missed before is knocking out Salamence. Salamence do tend to be naive now, and if it's asleep, a Hex has actually got a good chance to one-shot it. even with this reduced special attack, I do actually think there's a decent chance of one-shotting Mega Salamence Naive with a boosted Hex. So there is that. But I mean, Mega Gengar is actually a really versatile Pokemon. It can be used in Perish Trap teams. It can just be used in general standard teams with things like Icy Wind and whatever else, maybe Disable if you're using like a Perish Song team or whatever. But this one, we've got Hypnosis, just because it obviously can take advantage of the gravity. Hypnosis is 100% accurate in gravity. A base speed of 130 means that it is going to be faster than anything else. Instead, aside from things like Manectric, Mega Manectric, and Mega Lopunny as well, and Scarfed Pokemon too. So there was that, speed tying with Mewtwo and Crobat was potentially an issue as well. Mewtwo was actually a little bit of a problem for this team. Don't really tend to see too many Mewtwo around, but Mewtwo, especially Mewtwo Y, I'm sure you can see why, was a little bit of a problem for this team. But Hypnosis, again, just like the Whimsicott, was really good. Earlier on in this team, in the history of this team, I would lead with Sableye and Gengar a lot of the time. Like, the team was sort of built with that lead in mind, I suppose, being able to Gravity and Hypnosis. But as the format has gone on, I actually found that I didn't really take Gengar as much as maybe Kyurem or maybe even Salamence sometimes. So, like, I did still use Gengar a number of times at the weekend at the national tournament, but I didn't use Gengar as much as I used to. And so towards the end of me using this team, towards nationals, I did consider if Gengar was actually that important on the team, because I can abuse Sleep with Whimsicott, and maybe something like a Mega Kangaskhan in this slot would help against other Kangaskhan, and might help against Big Six teams a little bit better as well. So Gengar, like, if I was going to swap any Pokemon out from this team, then Gengar might be it, actually. So, which might sound a bit strange, seeing as the team was, sort of built around, the gravity and the Gengar and the trapping and the Hypnosis and everything. But, there we go. I still, hence it being on the team still, I do still think Gengar is a very, very good Pokemon. Sludge Bomb, like I said, it can do a lot of damage to Xerneas. It hits Smeargle very hard as well, which is very important, because people do tend to lead Smeargle against this team. Maybe with Crafty Shield or something like that. If it's Mental Herb as well, then Sableye is really not going to enjoy that. So if it is Mental Herb, then I can normally just one-shot it with a Sludge Bomb, which is obviously very, very handy. The Hex, like I was saying, does take advantage of the gravity in terms of it is very powerful when you're hitting something that's asleep, or just status in general, like if they're poisoned, for example. It can one-shot Frail Cresselia, although you don't really see Frail Cresselia too much this format, or even at all this format. But even still, a bulky Cresselia, this Hex is going to do like 80% to it, which is massive, actually. It's a really, really good chunk. It does a lot of damage. Hex is probably the least used move on this set, to be honest. But it is important for hitting Groudon. Without Hex, Mega Gengar would just sit in front of Groudon and not really do anything. A few times I've come across like a substitute Groudon where, like, as I've set up the gravity and maybe protected on a Scrappy Faker or something, I don't know, they've substituted with their Groudon. The Hex is very important just to be able to break the substitute on the Groudon. If they go for like a Trick Room or something, then I've got options to, quash maybe if I'm leading with Sableye, put them to sleep. A Hex on a sleeping Groudon does a lot of damage as well. It does do about 80%, so that is actually really nice too. So I don't know if I would swap the Hex, but I suppose it does have some other options. I did actually consider swapping Hex for Perish Song, which, yes, that's a very evil move, isn't it? Because when you look at this team, it's gravity. Everyone knows this team. If they lead with something that's sort of meant to disrupt the gravity, maybe something like a Kangaskhan and a Smeargle, something like that, I can just trap them in and, Perish Song, and there's not really too much that they would be able to do against that. So that was an option, but I did stay with Hex, unfortunately. But yeah, I do like this Gengar. I do like the whole team, to be honest. But that's the Gengar. The EV spread is probably not one that is super secret, really. I think other people have come up with this spread themselves, just because it is the best spread for surviving the Adamant Life Orb Brave Bird from Talonflame, which is very important. The rest is just in speed, because max speed, I mean, I was tempted to maybe do just enough to outspeed Weavile, but really for the sake of knowing that you are going to be faster, or at least speed tying with other base 130 Pokemon like other Mega Gengar, I think it's definitely better just to put the max speed in there. Special attack is basically everything that's left, really, and like I said, Sludge Bomb still does a lot of damage, Hex does a lot of damage even still too. A base special attack stat of 170, a stat number of 209 is not little by any means. That is massive still. So there we go. You've seen my Whimsicott now. You've seen my Gengar now. The two shenanigan sort of sleep Pokemon of the team. Hope you've enjoyed it. Stay tuned, because tomorrow we are going to have a look at both of the dragons of the team. We're going to have a look at Salamence, and we are going to have a look at Kyurem. So hope you've enjoyed this, guys. Please stay tuned for tomorrow, and goodbye for now.